HARK! We are here. It is time for yet another Star Wars Unlimited video. It's been a busy week. We got those quick start rules dropped, went over that. I actually managed to put together some of the images, got them all printed out nice, and set them aside for proxies whenever it's time to get enough cards to actually play decks out. That's probably going to be some time. We won't see, maybe we'll see some card art trickled throughout. They did post a Twitter image talking about the leader, the Luke leader, so maybe they'll do that as they're trickle down, show another card, show another card, show another card, maybe once a week. So by the time the end of the year rolls around, you might have enough cards to actually play out some hands of the deck. But for right now, I wanted to go over a couple of things that were things I had set to record and post prior to the quick start rules being revealed. And then also a little bit of discussion about the images and cards that we saw in the quick start rules themselves. And then also across the internet leading up to the release of other things that we've seen in terms of art used in articles and on Twitter, so on and so forth. So I'm going to switch windows here. So this is a document that I had set up that was going to be, the video was originally going to be far too early speculation and hopes. Technically could still be, but we'll figure out what it's actually titled later. I should figure out the titles before I start talking, but you know, it is what it is. So quickly going over, I'm just going to read, not everything, but some of these off. The ones that I'll go into more detail, the ones that don't have updates. So the first thing I said was the base set was going to be GCW only. This was mostly confirmed with the set announcements, and the set announcements being Spark of Rebellion, Shadows of the Galaxy, and Twilight of the Republic. Speculation was the second set was going to include Clone Wars. Every game starts with GCW, but they know they need to spread their wings. This ended up not being the case. Again, per the image that we have, Shadows of the Galaxy, it is most likely going to be mostly Scum based, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Solo and Rogue One characters within that set to further supplement what we get in Spark of Rebellion. Clone Wars set, probably set 3. Our first hope that hasn't really been changed or anything like that, with the statement that they'll be drawing from comics and games. I'm hoping that within the first batch of sets we get Inferno Squad with Iden Versio specifically, Cal Kestis and the Mantis crew, and then Dr. Aphra with her BT-1 and 000. These are easy wins to bring people into the game, people who liked Battlefront, people who liked Fallen Order and Survivor, and then people who love the comics. I know a lot of people who are really big Aphra fans and BT-1 and 000, who are incredible characters. I've read a lot of the books, comic books that involve them, seen them do stuff. And then, of course, there's the Star Wars Destiny sets that had these characters in them, specifically Iden Versio, Dr. Aphra, and then the 2 droids, not Cal Kestis, because the game unfortunately tanked after that. Our next hope was draft and sealed options. That was confirmed from the FFG Live back on May 16th. We're getting draft and sealed options within the first set. Starting the game with limited is a great option. It's exactly what needed to be done. Bada boomba. Speculation. Factions will be separated, but deck construction will be loose within the factions. Dark side and light side will likely be hard locks within gameplay, but eventually good guys will be able to mix with eras, and same for bad guys. But what are the limiting factors? What's going to be the limiting factors? So this should have been updated as well. Technically, as it stands so far, with only the cards we've seen, Rebels are Vigilance and Cunning, as well as Heroism aspects, and we did get the definitions of these aspects, what their actual names are. And then the Imperials are Aggression, Command, and Villainy. Now, I do imagine, probably even within this first set, we will see Rebels that are Aggression and Rebels that are Command, and then Imperials that are Vigilance, in a certain aspect. And when we get to the card images, I'll show you guys what I think I mean by that. And then also Cunning. I don't think we'll see Rebels that are Villainy unless they really want to go ham into Saw Gerrera's cell of Rebel fighters. And I don't think we're going to see any Heroism characters unless they really want to build on certain Empire characters that are just trying to exist, like Admiral Sloane. I don't think that Thrawn is necessarily an evil character or villainous. He's just working for the Empire to bring peace to the galaxy as best as he possibly can. The same thing could be said for Anakin, but blah, blah. So there we go. We have speculation here. All of this I wrote this before the FFG Live and before the first look. So you'll see that that's why there's updates here. Division of battlefields, whether it's tied to locations or arenas, I was unsure, but we did get confirmation that there is a space arena and there is a ground arena, and that was part of the May 16th article and live stream, so that's cool. On the 24th, I started writing a couple of extra things here. So my big character hopes here, and I know not everybody's going to agree with this, and that's fine. Everybody's going to have their own characters they're going to want to see, and honestly, I think Unlimited has the space to have something for everybody. But ultimately, the big 4 characters that I want to see sooner rather than later: Rey from the sequel era, Cal Kestis from the video games, Din Djarin, Mandalorian, and then Maul. Not Darth Maul, not even Lord Maul. I want Maul as he's represented within the Crimson Dawn Syndicate, Crimson Dawn, whatever you want to call it, Shadow Collective as a whole. And then also maybe a little bit of him from him teaching Ezra about the dark side in Rebels. Synergy hoping that Rebels and Imperials have keywords. One big keyword I'm hoping for is Phoenix or Spectre. I'm a very big fan of Rebels. I love all of those characters. I own all of those characters for Imperial Assault. If they bring out the characters for, I believe they are going to bring out the characters for Legion, I'll buy them. We already know that we're getting a Ghost crew for Star Wars Shatterpoint. I'm going to buy those day one. Big fan of all that stuff. So I'm hoping we can get that type of like super micro synergy for Rebels in the game. I don't know exactly how they would do it across the different spectrum of vigilance, cunning, aggression, and command, but I believe that they can get this done fairly quickly, and making it so that you can get a leader that specializes in this style, probably Hera or Kanan, and then you just split out from there. And that's another one of my super big hopes for this game. Is just go ham and give us all the characters that we want. And if you've got 252 cards in the first set, which that's the information that we've been given, and there's numbers at the bottom of the cards themselves, you have, especially if each set is 252 cards. I don't think it will be. I think sets 2 and 3 will be less, but I believe each, we'll call it a base set in each, again, block. That's what we're going to call it for right now. Will be a big set followed by 2 smaller sets. And I think that's a great way of setting up, building each year worth of content for the game. So, and then I want the same thing for the bounty hunters. Start with the Executor Bridge crew: Boba Fett, IG-88, Bosk, Zuckuss, Forlom, and Dengar. Give us those 6 guys. Have them do their thing, and then bada boomba. That is what it is. We have here lightsabers shown in the background of the FFG Live. I have an image of this. I'll showcase this to you once we get there, what exactly I'm talking about. But this was actually confirmed with the Quickstart rules that the sabers themselves will be usable. You can clearly see Luke's saber in the background of the image, and behind one of the person's head, you see Vader's saber, and Vader's saber was one of the cards that was revealed in the Quickstart rules. So I have the speculation on colors here. We did get a partial confirmation of what most of this stuff is within the Quickstart rules, and they were named. So my speculation on what all of this is, and I'll just use their regular names as opposed to their colors. The Cunning faction is for experienced heroes. Something that I'm expecting is going to be big beefy characters, not necessarily themselves, but they build up into big beefy characters, similar to not necessarily the Voltron style, but basically go tall in Magic the Gathering. Then we have command for military might, things that allow you to do a lot within the scope of a single color or side. Tarkin, we know, allows you to draw Imperial cards off the top of your deck and put them into your hand. I imagine there's going to be more commander-style characters within Command, because it's called Command, that will allow you to get more cards onto the board or be able to do that strategy with cards from your hand. Vigilance is forced defenders or just flat defense. So far it is looking like it's going to be basically flat defense, and again, once we get to the actual card images, I can show you guys what I mean there. And then red is, which is aggression, is for attacking. I was originally thinking force attackers, but because it's called aggression and because blue is called vigilance, this definitely leads to more than just the force in those colors, which I really like. I think that's a good move, and it also allows force-based characters to be in vigilance and in cunning and command down the road. Light side heals and defends, dark side deals damage and attacks, so heroism and villainy respectively. That's probably going to be more just make it so that the heroism and the villainy cards don't mesh as well, because you do have that cost multiplier that if you don't have an icon that a card shows, you have to pay 2 more. I think that's the main reason why that is that. I did have the speculation that experience tokens were going to be +1/+1 tokens, which was approved in the Quickstart rules. And then shields protect from damage, same as Destiny. I'm half right. They do protect from damage, as we saw in the quick start rules, but they're actually a lot better than the Destiny shields, because an individual shield will block all damage from a single source or a single package, and then make it so that you have to damage the thing twice. So you can do a small damage first and then a big damage second, or if you have a card that does 2 sets of damage, like deal 2 damage to this and then deal 2 damage to this, you could do that to just get rid of the shield first and then do that. I do speculate here that the heroism focuses on getting characters out and making surprise play, while villainy is more of a grinder style of just throwing things at your opponent, hit, and then go. Future sets can include bounty hunters that specifically target and eliminate characters, so a when played effect that just deletes a non-leader unit, I think would be pretty interesting. Or it could be deletes non-leader unique unit or deal X damage to a non-unique unit. That would be interesting. And then smugglers can focus on bringing in sneaking damage or manipulate your resources or allow you to generate more resources. So your bounty hunters would be like Boba Fett specifically. Could even, I mean, they don't have the names of effects, but if they did, you could have no disintegrations, and then you have the ability to just eliminate a character off the board right off the bat. And then smugglers, Han and Lando, being able to bring in either other characters or be able to bring in resources. Just depends on how they choose to go for it, and probably won't see those characters until the second set. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the cards that we saw, or that we have seen. Now, this is going to go over cards that we saw in the reveal, cards that we've seen through other sources, and then also cards that were in the quick start rules. So first things first, our leaders: Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, vigilance, heroism, aggression, villainy. Now, the action abilities on these characters kind of give us a little bit of information on how vigilance and aggression will work specifically. So for Luke, again, as before, you pay 1, you exhaust him. I don't know how exhausting is going to work for characters that are already landscape, so maybe you just tilt it and then go from there. Give a shield token to a heroism unit that you played this turn. So Luke specifically wants to utilize heroism characters to be able to give them those shield tokens to protect them from damage. While Darth Vader, for 1 and an exhaust, if you played a villainy card this phase, deal 1 damage to a unit and then 1 damage to a base. So this could be one of those things that could help you defeat the shields on other cards for other characters by playing a villainy card, say a character, then activating Vader's ability on his action on your next action, and then using another bigger card to be able to deal the damage that you need for that. So for example, if you were to go, if you had the 6, let's say you were at 6 resources, you would play the Death Star Stormtrooper for 1. The next activation, activate Vader's ability to be able to ping something that has a shield, and then also the base. That's another big thing. That's why I'm calling grinder on villainy or aggression, maybe both. And then you activate maximum firepower to allow your units to just go cool, bang, bang. And then that's how you get the extra damage out. Luke does specifically flip on 6, while Vader flips on 7. That level of power, I think, allows you to build other characters. Let's say, for example, you have a theoretical character in the future, a Leia. Leia, let's say, is a 2/3. She could epic action on 3 resources or even 4 resources with a quick effect that occurs when she comes into play. With that character, you flip. Maybe she gets an action ability on the next turn or whatever the case may be. And then when she flips back, you just keep using her regular ability. Or you can go, you can go Emperor Palpatine as a red or even a blue, a vigilance instead of aggression character. You could have him sit at 9 resources and then flip into a 10/10 or something crazy. They have a lot of room to work with, and I like that it's not standardized, that it's always 6 and then flip. Luke is clearly a 6 flip, Vader is a 7 flip. So we've got Luke here with his ability. He's a 4/7. On attack, you may give another unit a shield token, so that fits with the way that he deals his actions out on his leader side card, and that's fantastic. It does multiple things. So quickly moving over to Vader, same thing. He's a 5/8, on attack, deal 2 damage to a unit. So you can set up that get rid of a shield and then attack, or clear out a unit that's already at low health, or a unit that only has 2 health to begin with that's causing you trouble. Bop, 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 bop. That's why I feel that aggression or villainy, specifically Imperial, is going to be deal a lot of damage over the course of a couple of actions in a turn, and force your opponent to either react with the shields on the things that are important to them, or take out your characters before you take them out. So here we have the Administrator's Tower. There's nothing really to say about this other than Cloud City. It is Cunning and it's got 30 health. Bases having the health on them, I think, is a really good idea. It's kind of like the heroes in Flesh and Blood, because if let's say down the line we get a base that has a powerful effect, but the base only has 25 health, that means that you have to lean more into the strategy of what the base is going to give you if that happens, which it probably will. Otherwise, why put the health number on the base itself? Or it could be something that you get 2 colors on a base and that puts you at 25. Whatever the design space, the game seems simple, but the design space is very diverse and very open. So there's a lot of things that could be done in the near future with these types of things. So just as the Administrator's Tower is Vigilance, we have the Command Center here, which is Command. And this is what allows the starter product to generate a Vigilance, Cunning, Heroism deck for Luke, and then an Aggression, Command, Villainy deck for Vader. Sorry, it's going to take me a bit to get used to it, but it's why I want to say the actual aspect names as opposed to just the colors. Here we have our only Cunning unit right now that we've seen revealed, and it's Leia. She's a 2 cost, 2 power, 2 health. When she's played, you either ready a resource or exhaust a unit. So this allows you to accelerate your own board or to hold off your opponent's attack in the next turn. So for example, if you need to be able to pump out a bunch of things, which I think Heroism is going to do a lot of small guys, we call it white weenies in Magic the Gathering, or just aggro itself. You play Leia, you unexhaust, you ready your resource. So that way she still costs 2, but you get 1 back. So effectively she's 1, but you still need 2 resources in order to play her at all. And then you get that 2/2 on the board that can do something on the next round. But if your opponent has something big on the board and you go first the next round, you could hold this card in your hand and say, I take the initiative, I will go first in the next round, do your thing. Or if that's the end of the actual phase, to put it into the next round, you can start the next round with the initiative and say, I pay 2, Leia comes onto the board, I exhaust your unit, now you can't attack me with that this turn. And this is a really good, it's not necessarily a counter, but it's a good slowing mechanism, a control mechanism. If your opponent, as their last thing, flips their leader and you have no response to that turn, you can get beat up by it the first turn, but prepare this for the second turn, because remember, the leaders come in ready and can fight that turn. Or if you really need to do it, you could use this on the same turn a leader comes out in the subsequent action to be able to tap it down, exhaust it down, so that way it can no longer attack. So a lot of terms coming out backwards in for interchangeable. If you're a Magic player, you understand what I'm saying. If you're not a Magic player, we'll get there, I promise. So like I said, this is our only Cunning unit that we have, but here also our only Command unit. And this is where I think the design space is going to be very interesting, because for 4, Grand Moff Tarkin is a 2/3. So the power and health equation doesn't necessarily equal 4 cost, right? But his ability, when played, search the top 5 cards of your deck for up to 2 Imperial cards, reveal them and draw them, put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in a random order, allows you to get extra value. The way that these equations sometimes work is that you're paying X amount of resources and 1 card from hand to take up to 2 cards from hand if you have those on the top 5 of your deck. A lot of people like these top of the deck searchers that allow you to grab specific things. And this is one of those abilities that will be very useful in Command decks. If you're also Villainy, that will allow you to get those Imperials. This guy, Grand Moff Tarkin, is going to be a staple in Imperial decks, because he can just go, cool, I'm going to look at the top 5. Let me take this maximum firepower. Let me take this TIE fighter, and then be ready for either the next phase, the next round as a whole, or be able to activate something that turn if you have enough resources to do so. I see Grand Moff Tarkin being a very big turn, I guess since you start with 2, a turn 2 play for Imperial players, because you want to get this to be able to get those cards. Card draw is going to be important, but card draw, it needs to be important in terms of adding cards to your hand within an action of getting some other benefit. And we'll talk about that when we get to one of the Heroism cards. Next, we have Yoda here. Yoda is a Vigilance Heroism, 3 cost, 2 power, 4 defense, or 4 health, excuse me. He has Restore 2, which is a red keyword, which means when he attacks, you heal 2 damage from your base. But when he's defeated, you can choose any number of players. So this means that you can choose yourself or your opponent, or in a multiplayer variant, you can choose a teammate, or say, I draw a card and that guy draws a card, but you two don't get to draw a card. And then they obviously each draw a card. This is the type of draw manipulation that I believe that is going to be very important within this game, because you're going to need, like I said before with Tarkin, you're going to need to be able to draw cards while also having something else on the board. So Yoda provides you a 2/4 that will restore when he attacks, so you can heal your base as he continues to be able to attack. But when somebody decides to go after him, you get that card draw later. So it's a built-in, you get something now, but the card draw later. Tarkin is you get something now, you get the card draw now. And that's why their costs are a little bit balanced the way they are. This is one of the more important cards that we've seen revealed, Vanquish. Another thing that you may not be able to see here, it's a common. So that's something that will be very important going in the future. These types of cards that will do a big, powerful effect being common means that there'll be more available to players to be able to pick up. But we have a Vigilance card here. It doesn't have any other typing on it, so it's not Heroism or Villainy. It's just Vanquish. 5 cost, defeat a non-leader units. That thing with a bunch of health that I can't deal with, vanquished, gone. So 5 cost, it's expensive, as all removal pretty much will be. But another thing that I think that players may not necessarily be ready to experience or to completely fully understand until they get to play the game in front of them. You start the game with 2 resources. So while this looks like it's a turn 5 card, or a round 5 card, whatever you want to call it, it's actually a round 3, because you start with 2 resources. So if you hit your resource drops, which you probably will because you can pick any card from your hand, to get to that by turn 3, you can vanquish something that's giving you trouble, as long as it's not a leader. And I like this descriptor for it, non-leader, because it means that we can see things like non-leader, non-unique, unique, non-vehicle, I don't know, do they have any type of thing? Force, non-Jedi, non-force. Those specifiers are going to be important for figuring out electing what cards are going to be good and what cards are not necessarily going to be as good. I think Vanquish is going to be a great card. It just depends on how quickly that Vigilance can get resources down, and how quickly your opponent can deal damage to make this not necessarily relevant. This is a neat card. I like this a lot. It's not a big offensive tool. It's got a bunch of blank on it, right? I wish there was flavor text on this too, but I'm just going to go with making sure that the pictures, the card names, and what they do make more sense. And we'll worry about flavor text when it gets to that point, right? 4 cost, Vigilance, Heroism, 3 attack, 7 defense. This dude can survive a bunch of damage. But also, this is a prime target for Vanquish, because you can just say, cool, that 7 health guy you just dropped for 4, sure, I'll pay 5 to get rid of it. But now this thing isn't in my way, or isn't something that's going to be able to just plank a 3 health unit with no recourse, and can do that effectively 3 times until it dies. These little dudes, unappreciated Alderaanian soldiers, but the Consular Security Force is here to defend your Vigilance plays. Next, we have the Death Star Stormtrooper. This is one of those things that I was talking about earlier. 1 cost, aggression, villainy, 3 attack, 1 health. It's gonna die, but that's what Stormtroopers do. But with 3 attack, it will trade for anything so far that we've seen that costs about 3 or less. This thing will trade into Tarkin, and it dies, but so does Tarkin, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna make an ass out of myself and go back and check. Yes, it trades into Tarkin. So, but it's an Imperial, it's a Trooper. I'm sure Imperial matters now. We know Imperial matters now. I'm sure Trooper will matter later. And here we have what we were talking about earlier, Vader's lightsaber, 2 cost, aggression, villainy. Our first example of an upgrade, attached to non-vehicle units. When played, if it's attached to Vader, you may deal 4 damage to a ground unit. So you can save this for Vader, or you can just give somebody a big 3/1 boost. So imagine with 3 costs, putting that Stormtrooper into play and then putting this on that, and then the next round, if you have the initiative, being able to just hit something for 6. It's huge. It's huge. Putting this on Vader, he goes from a 5/8 to an 8/9. That's a huge unit. You gotta take some time to take him out, and then he's just swatting things that are coming at him. So your biggest hope of trying to take Vader down with the lightsaber is to hit him with things that deal damage but don't require you to attack him. But again, when played, if this is attached, it's dealing 4 damage to a ground unit, and that kills a ton of stuff. Vader's going to be very lethal, and that's why, again, aggression, villainy is going to be very damagey, very plink-plinky. Here we have maximum firepower. This is one of the cards that I'm actually really excited about. 4 cost, villainy, tactic event. It just goes. A friendly Imperial unit deals damage equal to its power to a unit. Now, this is not fight. It deals the damage, and then you move on. So it deals, you have one friendly Imperial unit that deals damage, it deals its power in damage to another unit. And then you have another friendly Imperial unit deals damage equal to its power to the same unit. So effectively, if you have two Imperial units on the board, you can combine your firepower to just blow something up. So for example, if you can't clear that Consular Security Force with its 7 defense, but you have Vader and a Stormtrooper on the board, you could maximum firepower, Vader first, Stormtrooper second, that thing is now dead for 4 cost. Or if you have 2 Stormtroopers on the board, you go Stormtrooper, and then swing one of those Stormtroopers into the Consular Force on the next turn. And sure, it was expensive, but at the same time, you also got a bunch of damage out. I'm very excited to see how this card gets used with other Imperial units. So it should be fairly interesting. Next, we have a TIE line fighter. It's just villainy, so it doesn't have any other aspects attached to it. It's a 1 cost 2/1 blank. I imagine there's going to be a lot of Imperial stuff that does stuff like this. It's just good as opposed to being like tricksy. And this is a space fighter, so it's only going to go into the space combat, space arena. Everything else we've seen so far has been ground. This is our first space unit. This is one of the other events that has me kind of excited. It's a 3-cost heroism event. You're my only hope. It's a gambit. Look at the top card of your deck. You may play it. It costs 5 less. If your base has 5 or less HP remaining, you may play it for free. So if you have a big late game card that's stuck in your deck and it's on the top and you play this, but your base is 5 or less, it comes out for free. But this is also going to make most cards in your deck just straight up free at 5 less. I haven't seen anything that is heroism associated that is above 5 costs. I'm sure there will be, but Yoda was low, the Consular Security Force was low, Leia was low, so on and so forth. And this is one of those examples of being able to do something and then also kind of action cheating, because you do get to play the card, which means you get any on-played effects, or it allows you to use a resource from your hand to get a resource off the top of your deck in terms of not necessarily actual resources, but cards in hand and card advantage. That's what we're trying to say. Exciting. It's an exciting card for me. We have the Alliance X-Wing. I can't wait to make a full deck of just Rebel starfighters that come flying at you and beating the crap out of you. Heroism space unit, 2 cost, 2 attack, 3 health. Power health. Easy enough. Wing leader, 3 cost, 2 power, heroism, 1 health, but when played, give 2 experience tokens to another friendly rebel unit. So combining the power of the wing leader, which doesn't have a lot of health itself, but can give 2+1/+1 tokens to another rebel unit, you can power up 1 unit to be really strong, or you can power up a couple of units with multiple copies of wing leader to be stronger themselves. So imagine if you have 5 resources, your turn 1 is your first action is the Alliance X-Wing, which comes into play exhausted, and then you have the wing leader as your second action after your opponent takes his action or their action, and then you have a 2/1 on the board from the wing leader, and then now all of a sudden this X-Wing is a 4/5 value. It's good. Rebels are going to be pretty strong. I think Rebels and Imperials right off the start are definitely going to be super strong. I don't know how well the starter decks themselves will play, but it will be something that comes through. Here's the image I was talking about. There's some other images around here, and I think I catch one of them in a separate image that I took of the live stream. But if you look right here, you can see that is Luke's lightsaber. And then if you look behind his head, you can see the trail of a red lightsaber. That's clearly Vader's lightsaber. This is the Carbonite Freezing Chamber Vader image. I don't actually remember what that is. But in the next image here, we have a kind of pseudo remake of one of the original posters in this. In the background, you can see here something I'm labeling Vader's fist. We'll take a look at that image later. We do have the Phoenix symbol, which leads me to believe at least we'll get 1 or 2 Phoenix characters within the first set. We have a Leia that's over here, and unfortunately to this gentleman's left, so our right, looking at the picture, I can't actually see what else is there on this side. They only had 2 camera angles. It was this and this, and that was it. Then these guys were never zoomed out. So there's 3 camera angles, because there's one looking directly at the organized play dude on the left, who has a stormtrooper that looks similar to the way that the stormtroopers were characterized in Rebels. So I wonder if we're going to get a Lothal stormtrooper in the first set or second set, depending on the specific situation. But it should be interesting to see how that looks. Next, this is from the Unlimited official teaser, which is a Star Destroyer firing at some some rebel forces that are trying to attack it. I believe this is going to be something that's going to be an event tactic card that will allow you to either quickly defeat other units on the board or give your own character some sort of extra power as they make an attack on the next turn, or experience tokens. That they're going to be used. It's going to be a widespread thing across the set, because experience tokens, shield tokens, and damage counters are really the only tokens that exist that aren't just basic play mechanics like the initiative counter and the epic action counter. This will be interesting to see. This is probably in the first set. We have here, this is what I'm calling Vader's Fist, because there was a LCG card that was very similar to it. We've got the snowtroopers in the back, we've got Vader up front. This is probably going to be another tactic / event card that will do something specific with Imperials. It could be deploy another Imperial from your hand. It could be deal extra damage, or your Imperial forces have +X this turn, something, turn round, whatever you want to call it, something to that effect. We have a image here from Twitter. It's Jabba the Hutt, very stylized, very comic based, kind of comedic interpretation of Jabba the Hutt. This is a card that I don't think will be released until set 2. As I believe that the second set is going to be Scum and Villainy, but it is an interesting look, and this is probably Jabba's actual character card. Or it could be a Jabba's Palace style tactic or event. And then we have Han here. This is another character that I believe is going to show up in the second set. This will be the solo version of the character. Obviously, this was revealed in one of the articles. I believe it was the Games Radar article. And then I think the last thing we have, a couple of extra pieces of art. This was from the starter set, the Quickstart rules art. R2D2, obviously a character card. I'm going to call it now. He's going to be Cunning. And then we have Admiral Akbar, who I utilized in the thumbnail of my last video. I haven't figured out what my thumbnail for this video is going to be, but you do see the Executor in the background, plus a whole bunch of stuff fighting at Death Star 2. This, I believe, is going to be Admiral Akbar's actual card, which I believe is going to be Command. And this is the example of something that I talked about earlier, that I don't think that the Rebels are going to be limited to Vigilance and Cunning, and I don't think that the Imperials are going to be limited to Aggression and Command. Akbar is absolutely the type of character that is a military leader, and I wouldn't say he's not cunning, but he's definitely more command-based than, like, tricksy, right? And then I think for Han himself, he's probably going to be a cunning character. We'll probably see Jabba even as potentially a cunning character, because I don't see him being Vigilance, Aggression, or Command. So that was a longer video than I was originally anticipating making. We're just going over some thoughts, some information that I have. I did say in the last video I was going to go over it in this video. I hope this wasn't too long for y'all. In the future, I'll try to see if I can get these down into more bite-sized pieces of content. I still don't know how they're going to be doing the continuation of information to us. On the Twitter, there is information here. 2 days ago, we had, in honor of the 40th anniversary, they showed us a piece of Jabba the Hutt art. And then also we got the Luke talking about shield with his leader ability. So if they do this, where they release 1 or 2 pieces of art or 1 or 2 pieces of information on Twitter every week or every other week leading up to either Gen Con or the end of the year, that I won't make a video on every single piece of information, but if there's something big, we can talk about it then, or if there's something small, I can wrap that all up in a video that would come out at a couple other later dates. But that's all that I have for y'all today. I hope you all enjoyed this video as much as I did making it for you. Give me some comments on what you think is going to be coming. Tell me what characters you want to see. Tell me what you think those characters are going to be in terms of aspects. Tell me what you think is going to be the strongest deck. Honestly, right now, from the 12 cards, 14 cards that we know, it's technically 16, but only 14 of them are relevant. I honestly think that Imperial is going to be insane. The amount of damage that you can just put out with Imperial, it's going to be crazy. But you tell me why I'm wrong, politely, please. What are you guys excited for? What are you all interested in seeing in the game doing? What are the things that you think are cool? What are the things that you think are not necessarily as cool? I know a lot of people are kind of being tough on the art, and I get it. That Tarkin image is a little weird, but some of the other images are really cool. And like I said, I made some proxies of the cards that we've seen so far, and having the cards in my hand, I'm liking the art a little bit more than just staring at it on a computer screen. So when we get the actual cards in hand, I think it's going to be a much different feeling. But yeah, give me all the comments. I want to hear everything you guys have to say, and maybe we'll talk about it in a future video. There's really nothing else for me to say here, so like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Share this with a friend, please. Follow me on all my socials. And that's it. So we're done. That's it. That's all that I've got today. Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate each and every one of you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the stars.